It's only natural that a wife should spend Christmas with her husband's family.
My husband was trying to pin me down with old-fashioned logic. When he realized I wouldn't accept what he was saying, he began to ignore me. I won't take this anymore. If you want to spend the holidays with your family so much, I'll give you the chance to do so. Don't waste your time telling me that you regret it later. By then, it'll be too late. My name is Michaela. I'm 38 years old and love bulk grocery stores. They're a savior considering the way prices are shooting up these days. Thanks to them, my freezer is always filled to the brim. When I was young, I would just buy whatever was cheapest at the grocery store. But now, I'm running a household and buying from a bulk grocery store. I feel like I've gotten better at life. I guess I can say I've grown up. In my 20s, I married George, who at the time was a colleague of mine and quit my job. He was always reliable at work, and I thought that I could build a wonderful family with him. When it came time for our first Christmas as a married couple, my husband said,
"We just got married, so I want to stay over at my parents' house for a while. I was thinking we could go around the 23rd and stay until a few days after New Year's."
Huh? I also wanted us to visit my family around the holidays. And if we stay at your parents' that long, we won't be able to.
Can't you visit your family after the holidays?
I can't because after the holidays I'll start my part-time job.
My parents were looking forward to seeing you too.
George held his head in his hands, looking concerned. And I also began to mull things over. I was very happy that his parents were looking forward to seeing me. I've heard stories about people being shunned by their in-laws, and I can't say I really feel like a part of the family yet. My in-laws always seem to have their guard up when I meet them, and I haven't had any personal conversations with them yet. So, I've been wanting to get closer with them. I discussed this with my parents, and they told me that since I'm married into my husband's family, I should prioritize my in-laws. They even told me that a wife can't just skip back to her parents' house anytime she wants. Having heard that from my parents, I told George that we should go and have as much fun as possible at his parents' house this Christmas. That made him happy, and I was relieved. But from then on, nearly 5 years passed without me being able to visit my family. George kept on coming up with excuses to keep me from going. The first year we were married, he used the fact that we were newlyweds and said we should spend time with his family as a couple, and I accepted that. I went along with it partly because of what he said, and also partly because I thought it was important for me as his wife to demonstrate that I value his family. My parents told me that I can come home anytime I want, so I should prioritize spending the holidays with my in-laws. At the time, I decided that that's just what getting married is. So, we didn't just spend Christmas, but also Thanksgiving and 4th of July with my in-laws. George's parents seemed really happy. They became accustomed to me and treated me like a real member of the family. But then, during the second year of our marriage, we weren't newlyweds anymore. I had just gotten pregnant, and I wanted to meet my family at least once before giving birth. So, I told George that I wanted to spend this 4th of July with my family instead of his.
Why would you go to your parents' house? It's the 4th of July.
My parents live relatively far away, so unless it's a long weekend like this, I can't go out and visit them. They're getting older, and I want to meet with them while I still can.
You can meet them anytime you want, so isn't a phone call enough for the 4th of July? My parents are also getting older. Don't you want to spend the 4th of July with them?
We spent every holiday with them last year. On 4th of July, we both have the long weekend off, so we can each go to our own parents' homes.
That's inconsiderate. My family will feel like you're abandoning them.
Why do you want me to spend the holidays with your family so badly?
Why are you trying to avoid meeting my family? Do you not want to see them?
I'm not avoiding them, and I never said I don't want to see them. That's not the situation at all.
That's exactly what it is.
This wasn't getting anywhere. My husband and I just can't see eye to eye when it comes to our parents. It all started after I called my family to tell them I'm pregnant. He got angry, and that I didn't call his parents first, and it became a big fight. I told him that I wanted to wait until things were more certain first. Though honestly, I can't deny that I also wanted to hear my parents react happily to the news. I didn't think it would be the start of an argument between us. Since then, George keeps assuming that I don't prioritize his parents because I hate them.
My parents have been so nice to you. What could you possibly be dissatisfied with them about?
George's parents really did treat me well, and I loved them. That's the truth. But of course, I also loved my own family, and my parents weren't going to be around forever. I want to spend time with them while I still can. But at this point, George just saw me as the wife who hates her in-laws. That year, George's father passed away slightly before Thanksgiving. So of course, we spent Thanksgiving with his mother. The next month, George said we can't leave his mother alone for the Christmas holidays, so I wasn't able to see my family that entire holiday season either. My mother-in-law was deeply shaken by her husband's passing. Imagining her watching Christmas movies or the New Year's countdown on her own made my heart ache, so I readily agreed to go. I genuinely wanted to keep her company.
This year, you want to go to my mom's for the holidays for the first time, huh? What are you trying to pull?
What am I trying to pull? George probably said that as a joke, without giving it too much thought. But even if that was his idea of a joke, I didn't like it. From then on, his attitude towards me became more and more indifferent, to the point he didn't feel like my husband anymore. By then, 5 years had passed since we first got married. We had our first child, and George really began thinking lightly of me. He probably thought that at this point I couldn't run away, no matter what he did. We used to follow the rule that whoever got home first would handle the chores that day, but he seemed to go out of his way to come home from work late. It was obvious he just didn't want to help around the house. If I made even the slightest of mistakes, he would immediately complain, saying things like,
"Huh, you really are useless."
I felt like I was at work with a strict boss watching over me. I could feel how my husband's personality change was gradually making me more and more stressed. Some time passed, and my younger sister got in touch to tell me that she had given birth to her first child. My first niece. She was staying over at our parents' house because she had given birth at the hospital nearby. Christmas was coming up, and I realized I hadn't met any of my family in years.
You want to go back to your parents' house for Christmas because your sister gave birth? Isn't a phone call enough if you want to congratulate her?
What? It's not just to congratulate her. My husband continued, telling me to just call instead. I couldn't hide my irritation with him anymore. Why won't you let me go spend time with my family? You always like to say that I can go whenever I want, but when I actually try to discuss my plans, you never follow your word.
It's only natural that a wife should spend Christmas with her husband's family. A wife can't just skip back to her parents' house anytime she wants. That's what your parents said, isn't it?
They said that to be considerate. I haven't gone back home in so long that my parents are obviously feeling upset. I want our daughter to finally meet her grandparents, too.
That's what it means to marry into a family. What do you have against my family? Remember how real women used to be. They were more devoted to their husbands' families. I've been considerate to you so far by not having us move in with my mom, though I wanted us to. So you should be more considerate to my mom and I too.
What kind of historical ideas of the ideal family was he referencing? I didn't even know George wanted us to live with his mother. I've always felt like I was biting my tongue and letting George do what he wanted, but from his perspective, he just considered me a problematic wife. Instead of talking things through with me, he just eventually explodes and forces his opinion on me. And since I don't follow along, he sees me as a useless wife. How am I supposed to know you wanted that if you've never told me?
It's your fault for not being able to understand without me having to spell everything out for you. Women are supposed to follow their husband's wishes.
No woman would ever agree to something like that. You should have married a robot if that's what you wanted.
That's your biggest issue right there. You never try to fix any of your faults. I don't care anymore. I'm not going to speak to you until you finally learn your lesson.
Excuse me? George, completely out of line, went into his bedroom and ignored me for days afterwards. How are we supposed to resolve things if he won't even talk to me? I increasingly began to wonder why I was married to this guy. Of course, the reason I carried on with our marriage until now is because even if he made me angry, I didn't completely hate him. I thought that our sweet relationship from when we were dating was just experiencing a bit of a hiccup since we got married. I believed that as long as we still loved each other, we could go back to what we were before. I did my best to fix things. Though that love seemed to have disappeared. Ugh, how stupid. I can't take this anymore. After giving it some thought, I suggested to our daughter, Sienna, that we go on a trip. She firmly nodded in agreement, and though she probably didn't know what was going on, that was the push I needed. I took Sienna, and we secretly moved away. Half a month passed. Our doorbell rang early in the morning, and looking outside of the peephole, I saw George standing outside. When I opened the door, he lunged in and hugged me.
I've reached my limit. Mom, help me.
When he pulled away and noticed it was me, George stared wide-eyed.
Michaela? Huh? What are you doing here?
Michaela moved in with me, my mother-in-law said with a smile, walking up from behind me.
What?
George exclaimed in a wild voice. Christmas is coming up, so it's only natural for a wife to be at her husband's family's house, isn't it? That's why I got in touch with your mother and moved in.
Wait, what's going on? Didn't you leave behind a letter saying that you're leaving me?
My mother-in-law and I grinned as George stood stunned. I'm the one who should be asking you what's going on, George. Michaela, I heard you didn't let her visit her family even once.
Didn't you say that you wanted to see Michaela?
That's because you would always say that you and Michaela wanted to come visit. If she wants to visit her family, you should obviously let her. Where's your gratitude to her parents for letting her marry you? The shrill, strict scolding from his mother made George stiffen up. And what did you mean earlier when you said you want help? I hope you weren't about to say that you can't handle your housework on your own now that Michaela left you. Hearing his mother's words, George looked down at the ground pitifully. Well, that was to be expected. The clothes he was wearing were in shambles. I'm not sure whether it's because they weren't washed or because they weren't folded well, or maybe he didn't dry them properly. Pathetic! You acted so high and mighty with your wife, but you can't do anything without her. George let out a "but" that hung in the air awkwardly.
Michaela couldn't survive on her own, so she had to come leech off of our family, so same goes to her. Don't just pin all the blame on me.
He let a self-satisfied and I felt something inside me snap. Excuse me? You're the one who said a wife should spend Christmas with her husband's family. Should you compliment me for being a good wife that follows her husband's wishes? Aren't you embarrassed that you need me to take care of you at your age? You kept telling me that I am useless and that I am not perceptive enough to understand you, but you didn't know I was leaving, did you? You can't even take care of yourself. Aren't you the useless one? This was the first time I bared my fangs at George. He stood shocked with his jaw dropped, and his face went pale. He probably wanted to reply to me, but no words were coming out. I did all I could to do as you say and be a good wife, but in return all you did was ignore me for days on end.
That was a mistake.
Ignoring me meant that you'll accept anything I decide to do from here on, right?
Huh?
George suddenly snapped into focus. It's your fault for refusing to talk to me. At that point you lost. I'm divorcing you.
Wait a minute. You know what things are like at my job. If I get a divorce after having a child, everyone will think I'm unreliable.
Well, that's the truth. You aren't reliable.
You really aren't.
My mother-in-law chimed in and cackled. Hearing his mother's comment, George went silent. The reason I turned on your mother is because I love her like my own mother. Though I tried telling you I treasured your parents and considered them my own family, you would never listen to me.
You're bad at expressing your feelings.
Yeah, in that case, this is for the best. Since I'm obviously unable to express my feelings to you, I'm going to divorce you. Having his words come back at him like a boomerang, George stood there dejected. George's mother chased him away, and from then on, continued to let Sienna and I live with her until the divorce proceedings were completed. Negotiating a settlement was difficult. George first tried to claim custody of Sienna. Then he said he wanted us to get together again. He wouldn't accept getting a divorce. He cried on his hands and knees, sent romantic letters, and tried just about anything he could. If he didn't want a divorce, he should have treated me better in the first place. No matter how much he regrets it, it's too late now. I'm not familiar with divorce law, and didn't expect the process to be this much of a hassle, so it was very difficult at first. I genuinely thought we might not be able to get divorced if he doesn't agree to it. At one point, he threatened he wouldn't pay child support, and I genuinely panicked because I didn't know that was protected by law. My sister helped me find a good lawyer, so ultimately everything wrapped up well. It seems there are much more complicated divorces than ours. It really was a learning experience. I was also able to win custody of Sienna with no problem. Though it took time, Sienna and I were finally free. Sienna got to meet my family more, and she seems happier now than before. I heard from an ex-colleague that George became so stressed from the divorce that he became useless at work and makes mistakes daily. One mistake resulted in losing an important client, so the company suffered a big loss. Because of that, George's boss's salary was reduced, and George was also demoted. His teammates, who were all punished alongside him, all began to hate him, and his reputation in the company suffered. Less experienced colleagues got ahead of him in the ranks, and everyone talks about George behind his back. As Sienna's grandmother, George's mother meets Sienna every once in a while behind George's back. Sienna seems to really love her grandmother. Last summer, they went to many carnivals together, and her grandmother bought her a lot of cotton candy. Her grandmother spoils Sienna more than I do, so Sienna says she likes her grandmother more than me. What can I do? I'm her mom. I need to be strict sometimes. Though Sienna says things like that, when I once caught a cold, she stayed by my bedside all day taking care of me. The bond between a mother and her daughter really is deep. Sienna loves my parents a lot and definitely wants to visit her grandparents during long holidays. She also seems to have fun playing with her cousin. In general, she's an interesting child who would choose going to her grandparents' house over even going to Disneyland. Maybe she really does love her grandparents more than me. I'm getting a bit worried. But during the last parent day at her school, Sienna said the person she loves the most is her mommy, and I won't forget that. I will do my best so I continue to be the person she loves the most. For Sienna's birthday this year, I've decided I'll make her favorite chocolate tart.